how to actually face your giants and overcome adversity with positivity. You know, it's not a matter of if, it's when and how these giants are going to show up in your life. You know, the adversity that gets in your way of what your true objectives are. We're going to use FACE, F-A-C-E, as an acronym. This is a tool that will remind you exactly what you need to do when those giants show up. Let's jump in. First, let's define the giant. In a book called The Dream Giver, Bruce Wilkinson defined the giant as a very real and completely overwhelming obstacle that you encounter on the path to your dream. So let's get to that acronym FACE. F stands for find what your giant is guarding. Here's a little observation. Nothing can be in your way unless you're on your way. Think about it. If you turn around and go the other direction, this giant is no longer in your way. So what is it in the way of? This is really important because that perspective will give you the motivation to actually move forward and do the other things that will help you to face your giant. I remember interviewing years ago on my podcast a brilliant ophthalmologist who was paralyzed by a spinal cord injury that he suffered while riding a three-wheeler. This was a devastating blow. This was a huge giant that appeared in his life. And what was it guarding? What was it blocking him from? Well, a life where he could do what he loved to do and be productive and provide for his family. And with a spinal cord injury, how can he do that? It was really important for him to remember what he was on his way to in the first place. As I was interviewing this man, he said this, "You have to look past the bug guts." And I'm like, wait, what? Look past the bug guts? He said, yeah, you know, like when you're driving and bugs splatter on your windshield. When you look at those, when you focus on them, and you can try this actually, hold your hand up in front of your face and focus on your fingers, and what happens to everything beyond your fingers? It gets all fuzzy. You lose focus, right? And when you're focused on those bug guts on your windshield, you can't see what it was that you were on your way to in the first place. He told me you've got to look past the bug guts. And you can try this too. Look past your fingers and focus on something across the room. What happens? Your fingers get blurry. The bug guts get blurry. Whatever it is that's in your way gets blurry when you focus on what you're on your way to. So that's F. Find what your giant is guarding. What is it that you're on your way to in the first place? Is it happiness? Is it success? Is it freedom? Is it some particular goal that you think you can't achieve now because of your giant? Get clear about what it is. Now let's go to A. Accept what it is. As a professional psychologist, one of the things that I have learned and that I teach all of my clients is that our brain is always on. And our brain is constantly judging or evaluating our circumstances. Look at this graphic, for example. Right there in the middle of that line, you see what it is. And you've probably heard this phrase, it is what it is, which can be really annoying depending on who's saying it and why. But all it really means is the way things are. Right now, without changing anything, including the presence of your giant. It is what it is. Now look at the graphic again. It could always be better. It could always be worse. And when we judge it, we have to compare it to something. What happens when we compare what we've got to something better? Well, we feel worse. What happens when we compare what we've got to something worse? Well, we feel better about what we've got. One of the giants that popped up in my life last year was a call from my son. Dad, I have cancer. Now, when it hits you, at first, it's not what you expected. You get to feel whatever you're going to feel, but notice this. You are judging that. When our giants appear, it's really easy to judge it as being bad. Now, I'm going to say something that I get fired for sometimes. Circumstances are neutral. What it is, your circumstances, including your giant, are neutral. Now, when I say they're neutral, I don't mean it's easy or painless. It might be very painful and difficult. But when I say that it's neutral, I mean that it could always be better and it could always be worse. Wait. Is that true? And don't take my word for this. I want you to run it through your filters, see if it's true. It could always be better. It could always be worse. When we judge our circumstances, we have to compare it to something. And our brain will imagine either something better or worse to compare it to. How we make that judgment determines the energy that we will have to move forward. Energy as manifested by our feelings. So when I see my package as being perfect for me. Well, what about this one that I just shared with you? My son has cancer. How could that be perfect for me? Well, everything has upsides and downsides. And I am not minimizing the challenge or the struggle of whatever your giant is. I'm using mine as an example, but this is our story with my details. Because we all face these giants. When we can get our heart to a place of peace with what it is, then we're prepared to move on and do the next step. So that's why A is to accept, and I would add come to peace with your giant, the way it is, without changing anything. Would you like to have your own copy of that model? I'll send you one. I've got a PDF full color version of that. Just go to the URL on the screen, drpauljenkins.com/the model. You'll get the whole model. I'll send that to you in full color. Now let's move on to the next letter in our acronym. C is to create what is to be. And that doesn't exist yet. We haven't created it yet. We took some time just now to talk about A, how we accept what it is. When we come to peace with what it is, then we are in position to use that energy to move forward and make something out of this. Many of my clients have told me over the years, well, I don't get to choose what happens to me. I do get to choose what I do with it. Meaning, how are you going to create this thing that landed in your lap into something better? This is the other side of our model. And as you look at this graphic, I want you to notice something. We don't know what's coming. We are yet to create what is to be. And we're going to start with what we have, what it is. Now, as you imagine or predict or expect that what's coming is even worse than what you already have, how do you feel? That's the red arrow. That's anxiety. When we imagine or predict or expect that what's coming is even better than what we've already got, how do we feel? That's hope. And we can create that hope by how we steer our imagination that will then guide our actions as we move forward and create what is to be. I mentioned that guest that was on my show who was a successful ophthalmologist before his accident, and after he became the CEO of a music company. It's called Bright Music. His name is Steve Brady. And he was able to create from that place where he was a brand new career that he had never anticipated before. What are you going to create from your giants? Now we've got one more letter, E. Enjoy the journey. I'm going to simplify this for you because I already offered to give you a copy of this model. And once again, if you go to the URL on the screen, drpauljenkins.com/the model, you'll get this in your inbox. The way I define enjoy has to do with the A and the C. Accept what it is, create what is to be. When we accept what it is, we experience peace. That's one of the components of joy. The other one is hope. And when we anticipate better things to come through our own creative efforts, we feel hope. When you enjoy the journey, it's because you are accepting what is and feeling peace and moving forward to create what is to be and feeling hope. That's how we enjoy the journey. I gave you a warning earlier, a spoiler alert. This does not make the giants go away. But what it does is it puts you in a whole different position related to your giants. Really, this is the way when you face F-A-C-E, your giants. You get your mind working for you and not against you. Grab the model. I think you're going to find that helpful. Once again, drpauljenkins.com/themodel. Thanks for watching.